All right, hey, GratuiTous here from itsgratuitous.com. In this video, I want to talk about how I've set up the Fruity Blood Overdrive distortion plugin with my M Audio Oxygen Pro template for FL Studio. So the Fruity Blood Overdrive is actually one of my favorite distortion plugins. It's super lightweight and there's tons and tons of flexibility on how you want to distort a sound. You can even like super distort it with times 100. If you didn't know, you can also right click and you can change your different themes. Okay, I'm just going to stick on this one. And so how I've set up the sliders and the knobs for the Fruity Blood Overdrive plugin is this one does the preamp. And this is essentially where the distortion actually happens, okay? Then the next slider gives you the option of times 100. Now, if you're going to do times 100, you're probably going to want to bring the post gain back, okay? So we have the preamp gain, where how much distortion you want. If you want times 100, sometimes I use times 100, and then this one does the post gain. So a lot of times I'm using these in conjunction with each other. So, you know, if I want more distortion, less output gain essentially. So we're kind of churning it down because what's happening is it's distorting, but it's also getting really, really loud. So we can pull it back, okay? The next slider is color, the next slider is the pre-band, and then the next slider is the post filter. So I'm still learning the Fruity Blood Overdrive, but I will break down kind of like what I know and how I use it, okay? All right, so how this works, let's just put this like this, and I actually have a drum loop here. I'm just gonna turn on my volume just a little bit. All right, so how this works is we have our preamp, and we can just instantly just add some distortion on there, okay? But what's gonna happen is it's gonna get really loud, and so that's where the post gain comes in so that we can kind of turn it off and on. So off and on, and I can just do this so I can turn it from here. And to be more drastic, we can also turn the times 100 on. I'm gonna turn it way down. So way too much. But the fact that the Fruity Blood Overdrive gives us the ability to distort this hard is really awesome, because if we're working on drums or vocals or guitars or whatever, you can push this thing so hard. Okay, pull back a little bit more. Okay, so yes, we have the distortion if you want to be more aggressive on distortion, and you also have the post gain. Now, for the color, what this is doing is it's used in conjunction with the pre-band. So if you're really, really aggressive on it, I have found that it does affect the sound a little bit left and right, but you do actually have to set the pre-band. So the pre-band is kind of like filtering the high frequencies. It's like a high cut filter. And then the color is almost kind of like, you know, where you want it to actually target in the frequency spectrum. So for example, this is like high frequencies, mid frequencies, low frequencies. And then this is like how much of that filtering is happening. So what happens is we have our audio. We are going to cut the high frequencies before it hits the distortion, because if there's too many high frequencies and the distortion happens, it could just be really harsh on our ears, or it could just make distortion really aggressive. So we can filter out the sound to make it not as bright, send it into the distortion, distort it, and then this is another high cut filter to filter those high frequencies, okay? So it's all about kind of controlling that high end as you're going in, and then you get to control if you want to focus more on like the hi-hats, more on like the vocals, more on like the drums, okay? So here, this example is a drum loop, but there is a drum, there's a snare, and a hi-hat, and I'll try to target those a little bit. So let's be really aggressive. So the audio coming in is being filtered totally, and we're just being really aggressive on the high end, okay? So let's pull this back, and we're gonna shove our gain. And so again, this is where like the hands-on comes in, because you can start like turning it up and turning it down. And then if I go for the color, we're gonna focus more on like the hi-hats now. Okay, but we're obviously distorting a lot, so I'm gonna pull it back quite a bit and increase our gain again. Do you hear the hi-hats? Okay, so without it, we're just hearing just the drums. But because I have targeted the hi-hats, and I'm gonna copy this value, bring it back. So maybe the hi-hats are too aggressive, so we can filter out our distortion now. But maybe too dull, okay? So in this video, I shared how I have set up the Fruity Blood Overdrive with the M Audio Oxygen Pro. We have the slider, we have the times 100, we have the post gain, we have the color, we have the pre-band, and we have the post filter. And again, that save state and flip state, super, super powerful when you're mixing your music. You can set it up a certain way, save it, be really aggressive a different way, flip it, and then see which one you like best, all right? So again, this is a part of my M Audio Oxygen Pro template for FL Studio. It can be purchased at itsgratuitous.com. You can also contact me if you have any questions. Send me an email, hi@itsgratuitous.com. And I hope you enjoy your M Audio Oxygen Pro experience with FL Studio.